Nick, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Doing amazing, man. Appreciate you having me on, man. Good to see you again. Brandon and I have been long time friends. We compare notes, marketing notes all the time, so it's great to catch up.
Yeah, likewise. Good to catch up with you, Nick. After many years. I don't know, like 4 or 5 years, something like that. Uh, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, what's your background? What are you doing?
Background, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm a marketing and sales guy, so I'm probably one of the larger real estate wholesalers in the country. But I don't look at myself as a real estate wholesaler. I'm an entrepreneur. I do marketing and sales. So I think a lot of people get caught up when they're a wholesaler and they say, "Oh, I'm a real estate investor." No, you're in marketing and sales. Yes, I do buy rentals. Yes, I do fix and flips, and all of that. But the primary core of who I am is a marketer and a sales guy. And my background was, you know, didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth by any means. I grew up in a lower middle class family, struggled a lot growing up, was told I was dumb. I was in LD classes. I dropped out of school in the ninth grade. Worked from the time I was 14. I've been working ever since. My first sales job, I was 15 years old selling cell phones, and I did pretty good at that. And so I was like, okay, well, I know if I put myself in a position to make commission, then I can not be a slave to just like an hourly wage. And so that was a big wake up call for me. And then when I was 18, I became a personal trainer. I liked working out, so I became a personal trainer. And, all my clients were pulling up in Bentleys and telling me about their trips to the Maldives. And I'm working 80 hours a week to make 60 grand a year. And I'm like, dude, what do these people do for a living? So I started asking them, kind of like you see on like the TikToks now. Hey, what do you do for a living? I was doing that back in the old days, asking all my rich clients, and they were all like, "Oh yeah, I own this company, I own that company, I do this in real estate." A lot of guys were real estate, and the common thread was none of them had W-2s, none of them had 9 to 5 jobs, none of them traded time for money. And so that's when I realized that you can't trade time for money. You will be broke pretty much forever if you have a job. Job stands for just over broke, right? So if you're stuck in a job right now, you better figure out how to get out of it, especially now in the age of AI. There will not be any jobs left. The only jobs that are going to be around are going to be the ones that you're actually creating real economic value and that you're an entrepreneur. So, yeah, that's my background.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it, Nick. Um, the I'm curious how you think about that. Like when you so so I hear what you're saying, like the value of entrepreneurship, obviously I'm on board with that. How do you think about this, like in terms of the people who are on your team? Like they have jobs. If you don't believe in jobs, help me understand. How do you view that for your team versus like for other people?
It's a skill up or skill out type of situation. So, for instance, like the majority of my team is cooked, but I have select people on my team, like my COO right now. He's on OpenClaw, building amazing tools and products, right? His economic value has skyrocketed in my company because he has got on board with what the latest technology is able to do and how it can solve problems in businesses. And he's
Mhm.
solving big problems in our business that have plagued us for a decade now. And he's solving them overnight, rapidly. And so people that are able to do that and harness the power of the technologies that are coming out are going to succeed. The ones that put their head in the sand or they're naysayers against it, they're going to end up having zero economic value. I'm going to give you a crazy story, okay? So, I'm not going to name names, but, a developer that I've been working with for a long freaking time, like 8 years, been working with this guy. And he's very sharp, does phenomenal work, does very well. He's got a family, kids, everything. Well, I love the guy. But he's the kind of guy where he knows that he's got the gold, right? Everybody kind of works around him because nobody can solve the problems that he can solve. And really, since February was kind of a turning point in time where the models got good enough that non-technicals like myself can basically do anything that a technical person can do. So my developer who, I would have to wait, 5 days to get a button change or, a field or a drop down updated. I have to wait 5 days. Now I can do that instantaneously. So what happens to him? where did his economic value go? Maybe from 300K a year down to freaking zero. So that's the kind of things that you're seeing in the economy right now in 2026. That's the disruption that is happening in every industry, every sector. And if you're not awake to it, you're gonna end up getting hit by a freaking freight train.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I'm curious, how long have you felt like you've been deep in this?
I've been studying AI since the ChatGPT moment back in 2022. I was a user on that, and I continue like my if you look at my social media feed or my YouTube recommendations, it's all
Mhm.
AI, technology, business, entrepreneurship related. And so, really, for like until I would say 6 months ago, I was, probably like everybody else out there, where I had my Chat GPT, Grok, and Gemini, and I would basically use it like a fancy Google, like, hey, make me a recipe, or do this, or hey, what
Mhm.
I'm diagnosing symptoms of my dog, right? Like, and things like that. I wasn't actually building anything though. So there's a difference between people that use AI to just talk to it like a chat bot, and people that actually use it to solve real problems in their business in life. Two very different classes of people. So if you're actually know how to use things, I know Brandon, he taught us before this. You're using Claude Code. Claude Code's a phenomenal place where non-technicals can build pretty much anything that your mind imagines. Or maybe you've heard of OpenClaw before. OpenClaw is a new technology. That's what I use. I use OpenClaw with Claude Code. I basically combine everything together to come up with like a super AI that can build anything my crazy mind thinks of.
Yeah, so tell me the kind of stuff that you've been like automating, um, or stuff you're doing now with this technology that you just wouldn't have done before that's recent.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's in stealth right now, so I can't talk about the majority of
Ah,
it. But I'll give you some basic use cases. So one, um, for specifically for wholesaling, okay, AI comps. Everybody that has come out with an AI comp tool, no offense to any of you guys out there if you're watching this, if you came out with an AI comp tool, it doesn't work. It's broken. I've tried them all. They do not work. You get out of a major MSA, out of lot block subdivision, you start getting these weird manufactured homes in freaking middle of nowhere, West Virginia. Like it breaks. It doesn't work, and it's because no fault to these people. They just don't have the deep industry knowledge and expertise in order to be able to program in all the different outliers and edge cases and the real ways properties need to be underwritten. My CEO Brandon, he has been doing this forever. And if there was an Olympic gold medal for underwriting properties, he would be freaking Michael Phelps. Like just he's the Michael Jordan, LeBron James of comping properties. There's nobody better than him. I'll put him up against anybody in the world, and he'll smash them. So what did we do? We spent the time, and we built it with his brain, and now our team uses it. And guess what? Our team is getting out more offers, getting more contracts, not having to spend the time and energy and cognitive load to underwrite properties. They could stay just focused in and dialed in with the emotional side of solving a seller's problem rather than having to jump into an analytical side and get off the phone and underwrite a property. That's a problem in our business. We solved that.
mhm.
It's not publicly available. We will be releasing it to our cartel members in April, and then we'll decide if we want to release it publicly after that. Uh, the second one is lead scoring. So, what I see a big problem with wholesalers is they'll spend 80% of their time just on the wrong leads, right? They're talking to properties that have low equity, they're listed, they're low ARV houses that need repairs. All these things drain you of your time and your energy, which are your two most precious, most valuable resources. So, what we did was every single lead that comes in, it's scored on a rubric that we know how high of a value opportunity is this based on all the data that we can aggregate across it. And so what it does is it cuts down a tremendous amount of wasted time. And so we've been able to 80/20 our time and be able to get more offers done in less time. And then another one is AI SDRs, right? So what is an SDR? Leads manager. We call them leads managers in the world of wholesaling. You got to get speed the lead with the seller. You got to find out their, asking price, their motivation, their timeline, get basic property details, and if it's a good lead, then it gets passed over to a closer. Well, all of that is done with AI now. Leads are being called 24/7, 365. We have zero speed to lead problem in our business. And then, so that's all taken care of. Then with our closers, we have them doing training with AI. So we have an AI role play that they have to role play versus different type of seller personas. And after every call, they're graded on a evaluation, and they see where they did well, they see where they can improve, and they're every day they have to log calls in there. And when I bring on new reps, guess what? Before they get on the phone with the leads that I got to spend money for, they have to test out of that AI role play before they actually get an opportunity to even call older leads. So it not only saved me money in that capacity, but it's reduced the amount of time that it takes to train these people. Think if I would have had to take one of my executives here and have him block off his calendar for hour, 2 hour, 3 hours in order to role play with a new rep back and forth. That's highly inefficient.
Hmm.
So that's just some of the ways. I got other stuff that I'm doing that's way bigger, but like I said, I can't talk about it.
Yeah, understood. So I'm curious. I've heard a bunch of different opinions on the idea of AI lead managers, specifically for an inbound lead coming in and being the one who does the speed to lead, the initial discovery with the seller, qualifies the lead, all that kind of stuff. What's your so I understand that you're doing that to some extent. Have you measured like how your humans were doing versus how you're able to do with the AI? Because I know
Yeah.
some people are just kind of like patching in like the nights and weekends with that, but they're still doing better with their team. Other people are saying it's working really well.
Yeah, I did a full audit on both of them. So I compared it across 1,100 calls or 1,100 leads each was the sample because I needed to make sure it's statistically significant. So altogether, it's 2,200 leads, 1,100 for the AI, 1,100 for the humans, and when you parsed it out, it was pretty much dead even. So out of those 1,100 leads, I think the AI got 22 contracts, and the humans got 19. And then all the subsequent metrics, in terms of, um, you know, the number of offers, all the downstream metrics were within like a few percent difference, higher or lower. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, and I think honestly, even if it's a little bit worse, the fact that it doesn't call in sick, the fact that it doesn't like need to be retrained when somebody leaves, like all these different factors like are huge pros. But that's awesome that you've been able to get um, similar performance there. What are you doing? Like, is that technology you built yourself, or are you using a different solution that's just out in the market?
We have our own now, but I mean, we've relied on vendors, for a while. That
Hmm.
was great. I love working with anybody that's doing stuff in the world of AI. Like, I'm usually the first customer. Like, if you built a cool AI product, I'm probably going to be your first customer because I'm just a nerd. I like to try out new things. So I've tried them all, and then now we've kind of built our own, just customized for us the way that we like the voice. A lot of times we want to change things for our current situation or workflows. So it allows us to have some more flexibility and customize it the way we want.
Yeah, understood. So I think a lot of people kind of recognize you as like this guy that sort of popularized the national wholesaling model. And if you're listening to this and you haven't really heard of Nick Perry, that's I mean, in my opinion, based on my perspective, that's kind of your thing, right? You kind of figured out this business that works in virtually, and in doing so, unlocked a kind of different marketing strategy than is typical. I'm curious what you would say to anybody who's just kind of unsure. I view it, and I invite you actually to like tell me I'm wrong. Like, please, if you have a different perspective with this, I view the local market wholesaling business and the national wholesaling business as two very different businesses. They just function like fundamentally really different, right? I don't view it as like, oh, you just take the same business, you just market it different places. Like, it's really, really just a different
100%.
business.
Yeah.
It has a lot of potential, as does, in my opinion, the local market model. Obviously, you've chosen to go the national model. What would you say to somebody that just doesn't know which way do I want to go with that?
Well, I've done both. So
Mhm.
when I first started in my career, I did local marketing, and I had a lot of the same pain points that probably a lot of people in local marketing do. Is that the leads are significantly more expensive, right? So Brandon will tell you, he runs marketing. Is that the more targeted you are on your locations, if you're doing county level, MSA level of targeting, your cost per lead is going to be significantly higher than if you market nationwide. Nationwide, you're going to have a cheaper lead cost by a lot. And so when I first started, um, I was, in a weird position where I was, doing a couple of deals a month, but marketing was kicking my butt, and I needed to figure out,
Mhm.
a way to be able to differentiate myself because the problem with local marketing is, let's just take, where are you based out of again, Brandon?
Utah.
Okay, so let's just take Salt Lake City. How many wholesale deals do you think are transact per month in Salt Lake City?
Oh goodness, I don't know. Probably a few hundred if I had to guess.
Okay, and how many investors are in the Salt Lake City market?
It's probably 50.
It's probably a lot more than that, at least. I mean,
Honestly,
maybe
there's probably a ton that
30.
do like deals once in a while, and then there's
Right.
probably, as you get to people doing lots of deals, it gets smaller. But I mean, these numbers are out of thin air. I have no idea. I
Yeah.
haven't looked at the data on this
I mean,
stuff.
there's a lot of people out there. I was gonna say closer to like
Yeah.
1,500 probably investors, like
Oh yeah.
wholesalers. If you throw a RIA or something, like there's probably 1,500 wholesalers in there, and there, like you said, there's probably maybe a few hundred deals. So you got probably like 1,500 people fighting over a few hundred deals a month. So it's extremely saturated. It's extremely competitive, and what happens is, your margins get compressed because you're having to pay not only more for the marketing costs, but you're paying against the competition there. Guys that don't care that they need to bid up 10K higher because whatever, they're going to knock the house down, or they are buying it as a rental and they don't care. It's for a tax write-off reason. So you're in a precarious position when you're pigeonholed into local marketing. Also, if you're just doing local marketing, you're at the
Mhm.
whims of the local economy. Prime example, look at Florida, okay? If any of you guys study in real estate right now, Florida is a terrible market to be in. And the reason for that is that in 2024 they got hit with two hurricanes. A lot of the insurance companies pulled out of Florida. They won't insure property there. We had reverse migration from the pandemic, and people moved back to wherever they came from. Remember, during the pandemic, everybody moved to Florida. We had reverse migration. So it was like kind of just all this stuff came together where, the market was super hot. Now it's like the worst state in the country, right? You can put
Mhm.
a beautiful house on the market and it's just going to sit. Well, what happened to all those guys that were just doing local marketing there? They had a local Florida based business and the market just completely turned around on them overnight. They didn't forecast it. A lot of those guys went out of business, right? Mortgage loan officers, real estate investors, all of them that relied on that Florida real estate market, done. Guys like myself, I don't care where the freaking house is. I used to love Florida. Florida used to be one of my favorite states. Do a ton of deals there. Now I won't freaking touch it. So I market in the areas where the deals are actually moving, right? So all I care about is how hot a market is and how much money can I pull out of that market. That's what matters to me. So I don't really care where the house is. I'm, day trading houses essentially. A lot of the properties that I do are in small, medium-sized markets that you've never freaking heard of. Rural
I
America.
see.
Yep.
Yeah, I see the value for sure of being diversified across those markets. I mean, everybody thinks it's great to be concentrated in a market until it goes poorly, and then it's not so great. I am curious. So I could tell you, just to share a little bit of my experience, owning a marketing agency where we're working with a bunch of different investors, and we have a whole bunch of them that are in a lot of different markets. Like you could say nationwide investors. Oftentimes, by nationwide, it means maybe a few different states or
Mm-hmm.
a few different markets. It could depend on what their strategy is. And then we have a bunch of local market investors. I can tell you my experience is that the nationwide investors, some of our most successful clients that are able to push their PPC budgets the furthest, that are able to get the highest ROAS, that are able to sustain it really consistently over time, are nationwide investors. Also, some of our clients that fall on their face the hardest are also nationwide investors.
Yeah. Yes.
it seems to be a something where like from I can tell you from the marketing agency standpoint, it feels like I can be running two campaigns that by every metric imaginable are exactly the same. And one company is having a really hard time making money from those leads and the other one's not. Uh, I'm really curious what your perspective is on what differentiates those that make it and those that don't in that model.
You got to play by the right set of rules. If you don't know how to play the game, you're going to lose every time, right? So, one, you got to know how to underwrite the properties, right? So, again, we just talked about, um, I'm looking for market. I'm not working properties that are in slow markets. And what do I mean by slow markets? The first thing I do when I get a lead is we pull it up on Zillow and we look at this town or the section of the town and we see how many houses are for sale. Then we go to the little pending box and we check how many houses are pending. So say there was 100 houses for sale and 30 of them were pending. Well, that would be a 30% pending market. 30% of the houses are going pending. That's like a balanced real estate market. That's good. If it's, under that, it's getting colder. If it's 40, 50, 60% pending, like it's on fire. So you want to be in those markets that have higher pending percentages because what's going to happen is if you are working properties that, only 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 of the houses are going pending, you're not going to be able to sell a property no matter how much you lock it up for, right? Or say 1 or 2 out of the 10 are going pending and your house is damaged and the two that are pending are nice remodeled houses, you're not going to sell. So it's these little things that people just don't know that I've just learned through the school of hard knocks that allow me to do very well in this. So they're thinking that like they're comping properties with the old school formula, like the hey 70% minus repairs or the traditional innovation offer. Like I look at stuff very differently when we analyze and underwrite properties. So you gotta know how to look at the properties. That's one. If not, you're gonna waste all your time, energy, and money, and you will fail.
Is it okay if I ask you about that a little bit? I'm
Not
curious
too much because
because
I haven't really comped a property in 7 years. Um, I guys,
sure.
I haven't talked to a buyer, seller, title company in 7 years. My team does literally everything, so I'm very fortunate and blessed. So don't ask me too many questions. Brandon is on a trip to Vegas right now, so I can't pull him in the office. But yeah, go ahead, go ahead. We'll see where it goes.
I think you'll
Test
be
me.
able to. I think you'll be
Yeah.
able to answer this, right? So if you look at how we define a market or like the areas we're targeting, it can be a bunch of different things. Like I think a classic example of where this can be difficult is like Riverside County, California, where within that one county, I mean, that's just one county within the market of Inland Empire, right? And then
Right.
within that one county, you've got like high desert areas where you have a lot of houses that are probably going to be a lot harder to move. And then you also have these like pretty strong suburban areas that are really heavily populated, really high home prices and all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious when you're looking when you're pulling that data to see like is this a lead we're going to be able to disposition or not, and you're looking for that pending percentage of 30% or higher, is that like in the city? Is it in the county? Is it in the market? Is it within like
Literally
a
in the
certain
pocket,
radius?
literally in the pocket that it could be a single neighborhood. It could be 3 streets. It just depends on how many properties are for sale there, right? If it's densely populated and you can get a statistically significant data set from a small tight cluster, then you want to go with that. That's going to be the most accurate. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, right, you might have to go out 10, 20 miles. But in a lot of more densely populated areas, you can get statistically significant findings from being in very tight pocketed targeted areas.
Yeah, so it's just like comps and the idea that like you want to go pretty much as tight as you can to get
Correct.
enough data, but sometimes you have to be a little bit wider just because that's how it goes sometimes.
You got it.
Cool. All right. So comping properties is the number one thing it sounds like. And I can tell you from my personal experience, some of these clients that fall on their face, it's with a national model, almost never is it is the almost never the issue is I didn't get enough leads because you usually get a lot of leads. Almost never the issue is I didn't get enough contracts because they could be easier to lock up in that kind of model, and with a lot of lead flow, that becomes a little bit easier. It usually comes down to like we launch a campaign, we get 30 contracts in month one, and then like we disposition zero of them.
Yep.
And who knows? Like maybe they're in the wrong areas. Maybe they were all comped wrong, so they were locked up too high. Like there could be a million different things there, but that's how this model usually fails. Versus in a local market, usually the way it fails is like slower lead flow, like difficulty getting properties under contract. But usually when you get them under contract, you're pretty good. Usually there's a pretty low contract fallout rate and strong disposition. So I guess what I'm saying is what you're saying supports that. It supports a lot of my personal experience, which is that the contracts just don't move sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why we're coming out with the cartel comps for our community, is because it solves that problem. It's a lot of variables that go into being able to underwrite a property properly. Like even my team that's experienced, for them to be able to properly evaluate a property, like pen and paper, like manually, looking at Zillow, looking at PropStream, doing it properly, takes them 15 minutes per property of deep analytical work. So now that AI is where it is now, with the deep reasoning and all the different abilities, it can do it. So we have a unique ability to solve that problem. Is we have the deep industry knowledge and experience, and the models and tools and the reasoning ability is now cross that uncanny valley to allow us to now have AI doing that process for us.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you mentioned number one reason people fail, comping properties. What's number
Mhm.
two?
Number two, well, it's usually it's going to be two things. Number two, it's again goes back to uh, locking up properties in the wrong area. Kind of ties into comping the property. So like just poor evaluation, I would say is the number one reason, hands down. Poor
Hmm.
evaluation. Number two would come back to if they got a really high lead to contract, then it's a sales problem, right?
Hmm.
And then if they have a high contract fallout ratio, it's because they're not controlling the sale all the way through, right? They're not setting proper expectations with the seller up front. They're not setting proper expectations with the realtors. You got to remember, like, I'm doing this nationwide. I'm commanding all these different parties to do this transaction to make me money in a town that I've never freaking been to. I have zero control. The only thing I got is my phone and my laptop to be able to control these people. And so you need to use those two tools very well to be able to make sure all expectations are set. People aren't sellers aren't backing out, title title companies not train wrecking the deal, realtors not going around you and telling the seller they should just list with them. Like all these things are landmines that people run into that are avoidable with the right checklist, and you just need a pre-flight and post-flight checklist on everything you do.
Nice. Okay. Is that, would you say that encompasses most of it, or are there other things that you would touch on
Yeah,
too?
I mean, of course, there's always outlier issues, but if you had to 80/20 it, that's the 80%.
Okay. I am curious what you think about some other metrics that someone might use to evaluate markets. Like, let's just say I'm looking at the United States and I'm saying, where do I want to do business? Like you mentioned, Florida, once upon a time, I think was like a really good spot for virtual wholesalers
Hmm.
because the market was hot, things were selling fast. It's got so much population, a bunch of major markets that all fall within like some of the same laws and regulations. There's a million things to like about Florida, and today not as much. Pending percentage sounds like a big thing that you're looking at. What do you think about some of the other big metrics that people are using, like for example, days on market or months of inventory, like that kind of stuff?
It kind of falls into the same thing, but I found pending percentage is the most accurate because what you're looking at is real live data, right? When you're looking at sold comparables and things of that nature, when you're looking at sold data, it ends up skewing because the real estate market moves so fast. Like within a month, things can change. Within a quarter, things can change. And so when you look at how many houses are for sale and how many houses are pending, that's live temperature check on that market. You understand?
Yeah, so you're saying that's like, whereas some of those other things, like for example, days on market might move a little bit slower over
It's a
time, so it'll be a little bit harder.
trailing indicator. So when you're
Yeah.
evaluating a market that you're about to do a deal in, you need the live data.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, yeah, that's really interesting to hear how you approach that. So, in your opinion, it sounds like big issues are essentially comes down to how we're evaluating markets and properties. And if you can figure that part out about the national model, then you open up cheaper leads, essentially, which is the key benefit of the business.
You unlock cheaper leads and you unlock the blue ocean of hundreds of thousands of deals rather than the few hundred deals in your local market. So
Yeah.
the cheaper leads, less competition. It's just fundamentally a better business model once you understand the rules of the game and how to play it.
Another interesting question is how rural is too rural when it comes to this? I can tell you the number one complaint that I hear from people when they've gone with like the national model is I'm sick of getting leads in the middle of nowhere where there aren't any buyers.
Freaking give them to me, bro. I just closed a deal in uh, White Sulphur Springs, Montana. If you've never heard of it, it's probably because it's a town of 1,000 people in the middle of
Hmm.
nowhere, Montana. There was no freaking properties for sale at all. There was no pending percentage there, but we were able to see the properties that did sell. We looked at their how fast did they go pending before, and we were like, dude, everything that freaking gets for sale here goes pending in like 3 days, 5 days. We knew this was a banger market. It's like one of those weird markets, in Montana where like everybody wants to move to like homestead there, right? But it's, you know, a population of 1,000 people. These are the kind of deals
Hmm.
that I do. Like I can tell, like, oh, dude, this is a banger market. So I'm gonna put this property under contract and put it on the market to a retail buyer, because you're not gonna wholesale. Wholesaling is dead, guys. Like the traditional wholesale model of sell your house to a fix and flipper, sell your house to a buy and hold investor is pretty beat up at this point. One, all the fix and flippers and rental guys that buy rental properties are hurting right now too, because they're for look at it. We're at a 6.5% interest rate market. It's very hard to make a rental pencil in this kind of market right now. It's not really burr season. Also, you've got the headwind of material costs basically doubled or tripled since COVID. Then you have the also nationally insurance costs have risen. So all those costs get passed on to the flipper, and they're going to lowball the crap out of you, right? Then we haven't even talked about regulation changes yet. Regulation changes have completely come in and disrupted all of our industry. The dominoes are falling. You see it state by state by state by state. I mean, Tennessee just this past week said that if you are going to assign a property, you have to get a seller to sign the document 3 days before saying, "Hey, you're gonna I'm assigning this property," and and if you don't do that, then basically you're in violation of the law. So it's going to be a lot harder to do traditional wholesale. So I use the word wholesale very brief, like very loosely now. The way we make the majority of our money is through novations, wholesale properties, and like double closing and things of that nature.
Nice. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Nick, for sharing some of your wisdom today. What for anybody who doesn't know like what your company does exactly and how you work with investors, what's the summary there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a real estate investor, marketer and sales guy at the end of the day. But I've been doing this 11 years now. I've done over 1,600 deals at this point, and have been through the ringer, man. I started off in a one-bedroom apartment, and then I was able to build this business to the point that I didn't have to work in the business anymore. I could just be working on the business. So, for the last 4 years, I've been basically retired. I lived in Mexico. I lived in Panama. I've been to all 7 continents. Then I got super bored, basically riding jet skis every day. So I was like, let's take this to the next level. So I moved back to the United States, and I'm active in the business again, but I'm doing what I want to do. Like right now, I'm just building out AI stuff, and I couldn't tell you a single property we have or anything like that. So I've been able to truly get that freedom that I think a lot of people are trying to get to. And so we help other aspiring entrepreneurs do the same thing through real estate wholesaling and real estate investing. So we have our group. It's called the Figure Cartel. Had it for quite a while. We got a lot of really successful members that have come out of that. It's probably one of my proudest achievements. Is not all the deals that I've been able to do, but overall, I think it's like 168 of our members have self-reported doing over 7 figures through the cartel. So a lot of them have spun up their own coaching and mentorships and things like that. But it's just cool to see how we've been able to inspire and help a lot of people and change a lot of families.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, Nick. And I would say if you're listening to this and you're interested in that nationwide business model, I don't know anybody who teaches it better than Nick. So it's a great community to learn a lot from. And I know, I mean, so many of our clients are in your cartel as well. You guys teach some PPC stuff there for people who want to like learn and self-manage, but a lot of people end up working with an agency anyways. So that's how we have kind of some overlap because not everybody wants to do that themselves. But there's, a ton of value there in terms of it's basically the business model.
It is,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
We teach you all of it. We do the marketing, the sales, like literally my entire business is broken down into, bite-sized video modules. And then we jump on Zoom 3 days a week, just like we are right now. And we actually help our members, with anything they're going through, any implementation hurdles. And that's why they're so successful is those calls that we do with them. We're helping them in live time, getting through any stucks and just teaching them, and telling them the same way that I would tell a close friend or family member what I would do in that situation. And so it's been really impactful.
yeah. Well, that's cool. We'll throw a link to that in the description here if anybody wants to go check that out. Thank you, Nick, for spending your time with us today. And for everybody else listening, I'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.